be remiss of us not to talk about the cruiserweights, given we've got a former cruiserweight world champion in the environment. We've lost Okolie and Riakporhe. I think rightly so, certainly for Okolie to go up to the heavyweights, because I think it's more natural for him. We've got the two biggest names in the division that don't seem to be able to fight one another, in Azula Ramirez and Jai Opetaia, and Badou Jack, who seems to be able to, be a champion in recess until he shuffles off this mortal coil. What do you view of your old division? What do you think of it all?
I think initially when the cruiserweight division came around, you needed a dance partner. Nobody wanted to know it was boring. There's nothing there, and so it's no point in being a good fighter in the division where there's nobody else good to fight. I think Jai is the guy that's like saying, come on, let's have some of this. But there's no names, there's no characters, there's no dance partners there for him. That's why he's talking about jumping up to bridgerweight or even fighting at heavyweight.
I know.
Because it's number one, if there's no names there, that means there's no money there. So even though he might unify the titles, it doesn't mean these guys don't want to get in there with him. Badou Jack, I'm like, what are you doing with this guy here? Why is he not being stripped? Who's he fighting or when's he fighting? Ramirez, they're for the taking. Yeah. So I think for Jai, I feel frustrated for him because he's an unbelievable talent, a really good talent.
And he might land in the heavyweights at a certain time when another young pretender's coming to the front. Anyway, before we get into that, let's listen to Jai Opetaia talking about it himself.
Once I do what I got to do against Chris Billam-Smith, I feel like I just won't be denied. They have to give me the shot. Everyone always talks about, he wasn't ready, he's too early, he's not good enough. But Billam-Smith, I respect, so I've been told there's a budget, he can have the whole thing. There's a $1 million budget, right? A $1 million budget to be on an undercard of Eubank and Ben between me and Chris Billam-Smith. And they offered it 50-50, right? So he said, I'm not fighting Jai unless I get a meal. Well, take the meal. Yeah.
Take the meal. That Jai first time rounds. We got that on the first bounce. We got that on the first bounce, yeah. All right.
And these heavyweights they're always going to be there. This unification opportunity to call myself undisputed will never, once I got the heavyweight, it's gone.
That's what you want.
It's gone.
And
once I tick that box as an undisputed cruiserweight champion,
right,
then I can live my life and go, buff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't want to look back and go,
there was another one. Jai, we're running out. What we have here is a dump button, and we've exhausted the number of dumps we've got.
Yeah, not subtle points Jai was making there. He's intent upon unifying this division, and also curiously seemed to be zeroed in on Chris Billam-Smith. And I like Chris, and I want Chris to do really, really well. But to me, that ship has sailed, and I think it was always a ship that was going to sail if Jai Opetaia got in the ring with Chris. I think Chris did wonderful to beat Lawrence. I went to that fight, saw you down there in Bournemouth, went to this fight against Masterneck, saw him against Riakporhe, and thought in the first round against Azula Ramirez that, the game's afoot here. Yeah. And then the next 11 rounds, we perhaps saw some levels. Do you think it's commendable for Jai to stay in the division, become an undisputed, whilst time moves on in other places?
I think he might regret it later on in his career. It depends how long he stays there. Johnny's just mentioned, obviously, he's the expert on the cruiserweight. It's a tough division, and there's not many people in. I've literally just been looking through the top 20. Like Sergey Kovalev's number 13, Mike Perez is number 7. It's like it's the top 20 heavyweights in Britain is probably a stronger division than the whole cruiserweight at the moment. But obviously, he wants to be undisputed champion. Who wouldn't? I liked what he said, and I didn't like what he said because over the money, obviously, I'll fight him for free. But if you kiss Billam-Smith, you're going to fight Jai Opetaia for 500 grand. Yeah.
It's but that's like, the room. Unfortunately, that's the size of the fight, isn't it?
They're going to avoid him.
Exactly.
They'll avoid him like the plague. They'll avoid him like the plague. You're Ramirez, you're Bandit. They'll avoid him. They'll think, I don't need him. He'll step out. Then we can play with each other. But and I think, unfortunately, he's going to have to make a tough, hard decision. Think, right, I'm going to step out of this. Always give myself the option to step back in it again. Maybe that.
It's a long time building up to a heavyweight as well, as we saw with Usyk. He took a couple of bed-in fights, didn't he?
You called Usyk's move up, right, back in the day, right? And we've seen cruiserweights jump up previously. We've seen David Haye jump up. We saw famously Evander Holyfield jump up. And we know that Evander Holyfield went back in the day from getting paid 250 grand a fight to fighting at heavyweights and getting paid 3 or 4 million. So we know the economic scales of it. When you look at Jai Opetaia and it's difficult because I really like Jai. When you look at Jai, you know he means business and you know he's the best in class in his weight class. But in his weight class, he's fought people that are way below his level. The only one he's fought that's been at his level was Breedis, and Breedis made it difficult for him, even more so in the second fight. Broke his jaw in the first, didn't he? And so when you look at the fight, he's fought Jordan Thompson and he's fought Ellis Zorro and people of that nature. It's not really tested him, has it, in terms of the levels?
But then you look at the heavyweights. He's probably the top 5, maybe top 6 that are dangerous.
So do you think he translates in the heavyweights?
Without a doubt.
But do you not think it's a matter of timing? Because we've got the old guard departing now, haven't we? Usyk is going to leave shortly. Fury and Joshua, without any disrespect intended to the boys, their better days are behind them, right? Daniel Dubois, well, we're going to see if he comes back, and you've got emotions about where views about what Daniel Dubois when it gets put on top for him and how deep he'll go. But Moses Itauma in 18 months' time is going to be ready.
What about Moses Itauma against Jai Opetaia?
Today, I would take that fight because I think Jai Opetaia is so clever.
Yeah.
And he'll confront Moses with something he's never confronted
So Jai's
before.
looking at that landscape thinking...
So that's my point. So shouldn't he be going up now?
Yeah, and that without a doubt. But I wouldn't hang about for these boys, the boys in the Cruiserweight, because they don't want to do it. There's no dough there, and they just do not... If he's saying to Chris Billam-Smith, here, take the mill, take it, and they're still not taking it, you're flogging a dead horse.
Does he translate into heavyweights, though, do you think?
I think he does.
Wins a world title?
I think he does. I think
he's got a good boxing brain. And most of the time, when I was cruiserweight, you'd spar with lots of heavyweights, and we're just big units.
Yeah.
It was the top 5 you stayed away from. And I think he manhandled a lot of the heavyweights that are out there because he's sharp enough and smart enough. You remember, he was a sparring partner for Tyson Fury at one point, and Tyson Fury's a proper tall unit, and he took the job to go out there to spar with him. So he knows, he's comfortable in there with the big boys, so he can make the transition.
When you look at those names I just mentioned, do you have optimism in your heart for Jai that he can be up there with them? I mean, I know we talk about winning a world title and potentially that making itself available to him, but when you look, I don't want to be mean-spirited to David, but I don't think he falls into the same camp as Evander Holyfield and Alexander Usyk, not just because of the rivalry, but because of the fighter itself.
Shall I tell you why I rate Opetaia? Is because he's got a boxing brain.
Yeah.
When Usyk stepped up to heavyweight, he was the cleverest. He had he was the smartest out of the heavyweights that were there. I remember when he was boxing, Usyk was boxing AJ, and Dylan White and Derek, they were saying, no, AJ will blitz him. I'm thinking, you're disrespecting this boy because he's a cruiserweight. You're just talking about his weight. You're not talking about his boxing ability. And I think Jai brings the same again. He has the boxing IQ.
There was a line from Russ Amber on Usyk, and he was saying, why wait? Why take your chances fighting against him? Just go for the main man. Just go for AJ now and try and make it happen. And inevitably it did happen, and he did beat him. His attitude was always, you're good enough. Just, why wait to see if you're big enough or you can just go for the main man straight away.
Can I ask you a question at left field, Paul? I mean, I don't know if you heard the other day, and I'll give you an opportunity to deal with this one because I half dealt with it on your behalf, but you can carry it probably better than me. Tundi was talking about Anthony Yarde, and there's no doubt that Anthony Yarde takes the fights, right? So you've got to give Anthony Yarde all the props. I've said he's a gallant loser. His best performances have come when he's been very good in a fight that he's lost. And no one can deny that when he fought Kovalev when he was younger, it was inexperience that did for him there. Beterbiev, I just think, was on a different level, but Anthony doesn't duck these fights. But the observation was made about Callum and potentially ducking the fight against Benavidez. So that's my first question of you and the Smith family. And the second one is there any possibility that, say, given the cruiserweight division is a little pedestrian at times, is there any possibility that Callum could step into the cruisers and go and pick a world title up there? Was it something that he'd be interested in doing?
I'll answer the latter first, and that would definitely be a possibility. If Badou Jack was available, I'm sure Callum would have jumped at that fight because it's a good fight and it's a WBC title. They know each other from the super middleweight and light heavyweight days. Obviously, Callum has the frame to go up to cruiserweight for someone like him. And whether it be Opetaia or some, I'm not sure. I don't know. He's 6'3.5". Callum is a big lad.
Yeah.
But the Badou Jack fight is a fight that he was absolutely fancy. I imagine speaking for him. With regards to Tundi and Yarde, I agree with everything what you're saying on Yarde, and it's difficult to say without sounding like I'm criticising Anthony Yarde because I don't, and I don't want to. I think he's a good fighter. I like him. I respect him. With Tundi, Callum Smith turned the fight down. Someone else turned the fight. We got the first offer and accepted it. You're a terrible manager because you've took the first offer that's been offered to you and it was less than what Boatti and Callum got for fighting each other. So you've took the worst offer possible for your fighter to go in to that fight when there was a lot more in the pot. There was a lot
I don't think that's
more
the
money.
Inference, though, is it?
That's what I mean. But rather than just saying how it is, he's telling me he's avoiding him, he's avoiding him. Callum posted a post on Twitter straight away after saying, I was offered a fight off PBC for less money that I got against Boatti. I never received an offer off Turki Al-Sheikh. So there was no offer to Callum from Turki Al-Sheikh or from a Saudi show to fight Benavidez. The first and one only offer he got was from PBC Direct, and he made more in the Boatti fight. So it's not about the money, but the money wasn't anywhere near what was in the pot. And the money in the pot for that fight for Callum and Benavidez is a lot more than he was being offered, which Anthony Yarde or Tunde have snapped their hands off at the first offer for.
Right, okay, fellas, that's it for episode 140. Thanks for both of your time.
Pleasure.
And we'll see you guys next week. We'll be talking about light heavies next week.